listen. The cedar eaves whisper as the wind passes, and the roof draws the rain into soft, ordered lines. Lantern light presses warm and thin through paper screens, and somewhere beyond the slope of the mountain, a far bell breathes once and settles. Come closer. Bring a cushion, a small cup, anything that will sit comfortably in your hands. Sit so your feet touch the floor or the ground beneath you, and let the weight of your body be answered by something steady and gentle. I am going to invite you into a small, slow ritual this evening. A Japanese-inspired tea ritual adapted for quieting the busy edge of the mind. It is not a ceremony to cure or to promise outcomes. It is a container, a set of careful gestures and sounds that may help you find steadiness, a place to set your attention and return to it again and again. If you would like more evenings like this, a gentle like or subscription helps us share more quiet. Make yourself comfortable. Sit with a straightness that feels dignified but soft. Allow your spine to be upright like the stem of a young bamboo, and your shoulders to relax away from your ears. Rest your hands on your knees, or fold them lightly in your lap. If you have a cup at hand, set it before you. If not, imagine the shape of a bowl cradled between your palms. Let your eyes soften. You may wish to close them for parts of this ritual. You may prefer the glow of the lantern and the sight of steam. Either choice is welcome. Notice the room where you are, like the sanctuary itself. The paper screens that let light through but keep a hush. The low brazier at the center that holds a patient heat. The iron kettle at its shoulder that breathes small clouds of steam. The air is cool enough to make those clouds visible. Allow one gentle breath in. Feel the coolness at the rim of your nose. Exhale slowly, letting a small weight go from the shoulders. Hear the breath as a quiet instrument. This will be our metronome alongside the sand glass. Small, finite, honest. On a low shelf beside the brazier sits a sand glass of the size of your palm. Turn it now in your mind if you cannot reach it. Watch the grains begin their fall. We will use this as the evening's metronome, a small, visible measure of time that asks nothing dramatic of you, only to match your breath to the motion of the sand when asked, and to notice. The sand glass does not hurry. You need not hurry either. The lantern gives a steady pool of light. The host tends the brazier with quiet hands. Coals shifted with the flat of a palm, a small rake scraping the ash into a neat crescent. The iron kettle, a tetsubin, though here the name is a soft courtesy rather than a claim to tradition, sits on a low iron stand. You hear the first near whisper of water as it warms, a sound like a breathing thing finding rhythm. As you attend, draw in for the first guided breath. Breathe with me now on the first pattern. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, then exhale for 6. Find the count in your body. 4 beats like a small ladder up. Hold steady, and a longer out-breath that releases a little more than it takes in. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let the kettle's first soft sigh be your cue. If you hear tiny metallic breath, let your own breath follow its music. There is no rush. Let the sand fall, the coals glow, and let each long exhale be a soft folding of your thoughts into the hands below. The host lifts a linen cloth and lays it across the tea tray with precision. Not hurried, not fussy. A practiced, calm gesture. The cloth is slightly worn at the edge, a few faint darker lines where tea has dried and been smoothed into the weave. An apprentice approaches with a small wooden box. She sets it down and opens it to show you. A length of braided thread for mending, a tiny bone folder to press the paper seams, a spool of gold leaf lacquer. Not for show, but as a metaphor we will return to, and a compact pair of scissors that have seen many faithful cuts. There is a little nod from the elder who attends the brazier. The community is present but quiet, moving like soft shadows so the work can be heard. Pause for a moment and listen to the exact sounds in the room. The kettle's steady simmer, the scrape of a bamboo scoop against the tea caddy, the faint whisper of paper being smoothed by thumb and nail. These are the stitches of the ritual. Each sound is a small instruction to the nervous system. Follow me. Fall into pattern. Notice. Bring your attention to your hands. Rest them palm up, or fold them as you prefer. Feel the weight of your arms. Let your shoulders soften. We will begin the first sequence of preparation. Tending heat, cleansing tools, and measuring tea. The brazier is coaxed into a gentle, even warmth. The coals are not a conflagration, but an embered bed. Watch the host as she moves. The rake carves a little channel through ash, a space for fresh air. A coal is shifted a hair to the side to make a quieter, steadier glow. The host smiles when the apprentice offers a small strip of cedar to freshen the coals. A fragrant, bright note that does not fight the rain or the night. If you have a bowl or cup, pick it up now. Warm it between your hands. Feel the transfer of heat into your palm, slow and civilized. Warming the vessel is both practical and symbolic. It shapes the cup into the temperature of the moment, and it closes the distance between you and the tea you will receive. Lay the bowl back on the tray, and notice how your hands remember the shape. The tea chosen for this evening is leaf tea with a green heart, or you may prefer powdered matcha if you have it. If I say chawan, the tea bowl, think of the vessel you hold. If I say chasen, the bamboo whisk, picture the small, precise strokes that will lift the leaf into an even film. Each item we name is a descriptor, an aid to presence, not a prescription. Measure the tea now in your imagination or in practice. A level scoop, a small measured fold, the gentle click of a wooden scoop against the lip of the tea caddy. There is a rhythm to measuring. Scoop, tap, set. Each tiny action can be a bell that rings attention back, a small surrender of scattered thought. As the host measures, she speaks quietly to an apprentice, teaching the way a seamstress shows a new hand how to fold fabric without creasing it. Measure gently. Let the scoop rest. Speak to the leaf by way of patience. The apprentice laughs softly, a tiny sound like a pebble in a shallow stream. Now, prepare for the second breathing pattern. Anchor this one to the moment the host lifts the kettle from the brazier, when the metal slips in the hand and releases a fuller breath of steam into the air. As the kettle rises, inhale for 5 counts. Hold for 5, exhale for 7. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, inhale, 5. Steady. Hold 5. Exhale, 7. Letting each number be a careful step. Match the motion of your breath to the steam's slow unfurling, the way it curls and finds the paper screen before dissolving. A neighbor arrives with a small parcel, wrapped in linen and tied with twine. She lays it gently on the mat and opens it to reveal a fragment of paper screen, patched with delicate tissue. Her hands are knotted with years of making. She breathes and says, "This bit will do the work tonight." There is simplicity in the offer, A repair is offered and received. You may notice your chest ease at the sight of a practical kindness. Observation alone can be a balm. We will take a little time to look at the repair, literal and metaphorical, because this is a central thread of the ritual. The host sets aside the tea for a few quiet minutes and picks up a small frame of paper, the kind that slides into the lattice of a screen. The paper has a tear, a thin line that could be hidden or highlighted. The elder suggests a running stitch. Sashiko, a simple hand stitch that strengthens. The apprentice suggests patching with a new sheet. A seamstress among them, who mends ceramic hems and the edges of worn cloth, suggests an idea. Instead of hiding the tear, mend it with an accent. Give it a thread of brightness so the scar becomes part of the story. Pause here and feel your palms. Are they warm? Do your fingers remember a tightening, a grasp? Let them soften. Think of one small tear you have noticed in your life lately. Perhaps a frayed habit, a loose word, a worry that shows as a small hole in the night. You do not need to fix it right now. Notice it as the host notices the paper. There is firm kindness in looking closely without panic. As the sand glass runs, watch the grains fall. Imagine the handful you saw at the very start. The sand moves with unfussy determination. Each grain is a small, honest measure. Let the next breath be anchored to the sand as it reaches halfway. Inhale slowly for 6 counts and exhale for 8. This will be the longer release we will practice later too, but here it returns us to steadiness. Inhale, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let the longer out-breath be a certainty that you can return to, a steadying arc that contains more than it receives. The host takes the paper frame with gentle reverence. The elder holds a strip of washi, fine paper milled with plant fibers, and lays the patch beneath the tear. The seamstress selects a fine needle and the braided thread from the wooden box. She does not reach for gold lacquer. She sets aside the metaphor for a moment. Her hands move slowly, each stitch a small promise. The stitch is visible, deliberate. It asks you to attend to the act of repair as an act of reverence rather than erasure. As she works, she hums a short phrase of an old song, a line about mending nets and hands that remember the shape of a thing, and the small sound slips into the room like a thread. Listen to that thread of sound. Notice how the humming pulls at your attention without demanding it. You are allowed to follow and to return. If your mind wanders, like a child slipping from the path, bring it back without reproach. The ritual is practice, not judgment. While the seamstress stitches, the host returns to the brazier. She lifts the kettle and pours a small amount of hot water into the chawan to warm and cleanse it. The water settles in the bowl, the surface trembling with small concentric waves. Then the host empties it and wipes the inside with a linen cloth. Warming the bowl is a soft, embodied moment. The heat travels up to your palms, to the tender points where you hold the cup. The host's hands are warm and sure. You may imagine yours receiving that same warmth. The tea is measured with care. If you are using powdered tea, the host runs the chashaku, the bamboo scoop, across the caddy, lifting a small shaped amount into the bowl. If you have loose leaf, the host will place a measured pinch into a warm strainer before it meets the water. Notice the precision. Not an exacting kind of anxiety-driven counting, but a tender attentiveness, like counting stitches that make a garment whole. While the tea waits in its appointed place, an apprentice brings a small bowl of cold water for rinsing the whisk, and another with a soft sponge for the tray. The apprentice bows slightly, an exchange of thank you. Community in action here is quiet. An offered tool, a steady hand to hold a frame while a paper is smoothed. There is no grand speech, only small acts that add up to a culture of care. You may notice that a single offered thing can change the tone of an entire room, making it easier to breathe. Now we prepare for a longer, slow section where the tea will be met with breath and attention. The host lifts the whisk, the chasen, and places it with tender authority into the bowl. The sound of the bamboo against ceramic is soft and hollow, like a small drum played with the fingertips. The whisk stirs the surface of the tea in a pattern that is both practical and meditative. A back and forth, a small figure of movement that aerates the tea and draws it into an even texture. Follow the sound of the whisk as though it were a metronome. Each stroke is an invitation. Keep your attention here. Notice the friction of bamboo, the wetting of wood, the way steam rearranges itself above the bowl. As the whisk moves, we will anchor a breathing cycle to its strokes. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6, the pattern you know now, and allow the brush of whisk against ceramic to mark the change between phases. When the whisk lifts, let your shoulders lift a fraction with it. When it rests, let your shoulders soften. The movements are small. Let your breath be small and kind. Continue this pattern in the room with the tea and the lamp and the menders, feeling the ritual slow into something like a rhythm you can carry outside the sanctuary. A short haiku is read aloud by the elder, plain and soft. Light through paper panes, steam maps the curve of the bowl. A mountain exhales. The haiku floats and is allowed to sit. Let the sentence rest on the skin of your tongue. Words like this are not a command but a seasoning. They suggest an image to return to should your attention drift. The light, the steam, the bowl. Return to the sound of the whisk. Notice any small shift in the body, a jaw unclenching, a brow relaxing, a hand smoothing its own outline. There is more to repair than the visible mending of paper and thread. Later, we will speak of kintsugi, the tradition of repairing pottery with lacquer and powdered gold. But for now, we will keep the image tender and metaphorical. To notice a crack and to let the mending show is not a denial of harm, but an invitation to integrate it into the story. Imagine a thin line of gold running across an object you love. Imagine how the light plays there. Imagine, too, the practical way a stitch stops a tear from widening. Both images are useful. Both are humble exercises in attention. Across the room, a young apprentice, her hair still smelling faintly of cedar, brings the kettle back to the brazier. The host lifts it and pours a small cup of the hot water for the elder as a gesture of thanks. The clink of ceramic is clear. You may wish to bring your own hands to a cup now, if you have one. Lift it slowly. Notice the weight shifting, the slight steam that touches your knuckles. Before you taste, rest the cup against your lips and inhale its aroma. The fragrance is green and immediate. Seaweed salt and fresh-cut grass in some leaves, a roasted note in others. Allow the smell to draw your attention inward. We will pause in this moment with a guided body awareness, carried by a breath anchored to the sand glass as it begins its fall again. Watch the grains slide. When the sand reaches the halfway mark, inhale for 6 counts and exhale for 8. As you breathe, move your attention down through your body, from the crown of your head, relaxing your forehead, softening your eyes, unclenching your jaw. Let your neck lengthen, your shoulders fall. Follow the breath into the rib cage. Feel the ribs expand and then give. Let the breath move down to the belly, to the hips, to the soles of your feet. Imagine each exhale as a gentle closing, a folding inward that brings a little more ease to the joints and a little more stillness to the mind. There is a soft exchange at the doorway. A neighbor has come to offer a bundle of winter herbs, tied with linen thread. The scent is herbal and bright. It lifts the room in a new key. She speaks in a low voice about the craft of collecting and storing, how picking at the right hour dries the leaf in a way that keeps its memory. The host thanks her, and the apprentice reties the bundle with careful hands. Small conversations like this remind you that steadiness is rarely a solitary accomplishment. It is supported by others who keep watch and pass on practical skill. The tea in the bowl has come to the temperature the host prefers. The surface has a sheen, a slight furrow where the whisk has left a pattern. The host lifts the bowl with both hands, bringing it close. There is a ceremony to the receiving of the bowl. To accept it with both hands is to accept the moment whole, to be present with the act. If you have a cup, receive it now. Turn it in your palms and notice its weight, its warmth, the curve that fits your mouth. As you bring the cup to your lips, let your posture recall that simple uprightness from the beginning. Take a sip that is mindful, not given over to habit. Taste the tea as though it offers a single fact about the world. This moment is this taste. Is it bright? Is it round? Is there a latency of sweetness? Spend one full breath noting the temperature on your tongue, the texture, the way it dissolves into a small heat spreading through the chest. We will stop here, with the bowl held, with the breath steady and the sand running. The ritual is beginning to settle into its middle rhythm. Heat, measure, whisk, receive. Outside the paper screens, the rain shifts and becomes a fine sheet that blurs the dark trees into smudges. The lantern light presses through like a memory of warmth. The host pauses, fingers resting on the rim of the bowl, eyes meeting the apprentices in a gentle exchange that says, without words, continue. The repair is not yet finished. The tea is not yet sipped clean. The sand still falls. The sand still falls. You let that small movement fill the space between two heartbeats. Keep the bowl cupped in your hands a moment longer, noticing the simple geometry of this action. Palms curved like little roofs, fingers meeting to make shelter. The heat at the rim diffuses a soft heat into your fingers. The steam maps gentle shapes against the air. There is nothing urgent in this lift. You are allowed to be precisely where you are. The host sets her bowl down again with a respectful click. Outside, rain has slowed to a patient sheet, each drop like a small, even footstep on the eaves. Inside, the light bends through the paper screens in slow bands. The lantern breathes a warm amber. The brazier keeps its steady life, embers like eyes that do not stare but simply see. Watch the sand glass. Notice the grains as they near the bottom. Let the sight of them be a soft anchor, an image to return to whenever your thoughts go elsewhere. An apprentice approaches and lays a tray with two small dishes, one with a thin slice of preserved citrus to cleanse the palate, the other with a folded square of cloth mended last week. She smiles briefly and says, "It keeps the hands busy and the heart steady." Her voice is simple, small. It sits in the air like a pebble dropped into still water. The cottage's life is modest. You begin to understand how these small exchanges stitch the evening into a pattern that feels safe to follow. We will now move into a deeper practice of attending, a slow, extended tasting, paired with a long body awareness. This is the center of our hour together. Place your hands lightly on your thighs if the bowl is not in them. If it is, continue to cradle it. Return your attention to the breath as the sand glass turns once more. For this next cycle, we will use a longer pattern. Inhale for 6. Hold briefly as the breath settles, then exhale for 8. The long out breath invites release. It allows more space than urgency. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Feel the ribs widen like a small fan. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Imagine the breath rolling away from you, leaving a cleaner edge behind. As you breathe, begin to move your attention through the body, slowly and without force. Start at the crown of your head. Notice any tightness there. Do not seek to fix it, only to be present. Let that attention slide down to your forehead. Soften it like a linen fold. Allow your eyes to sink gently back into their sockets. The muscles around them relax. Let your jaw unclench. Give your tongue a permissive space to settle. Move down to the neck and feel where tension lives, perhaps a line of contraction that holds stories, and simply breathe through it with the 6 in, 8 out pattern. Feel the shoulders drop a fraction with each exhale. The host moves with you in the room. She rinses the whisk in a small bowl, the sound like rain in a different register. You hear bamboo dip and lift, and the water making a gentle hollow noise. Her hands are steady. It is possible to follow someone else's steadiness and discover your own. Let your awareness travel down the arms to the hands. Notice the weight of the bowl or the weight of the hands resting palm down. Let each out-breath unfasten one more micro knot. In the elbows, the wrists, the fingers. Allow the shoulders to widen a little, as if there is suddenly more room across the chest. Let the attention continue down the spine. Imagine each vertebra loosening, one by one, as though a seam were being smoothed. The host, still tending the brazier, shifts a coal with a practiced fingertip. The sound is small, the movement deliberate. From the rib cage, the breath moves down to the belly. With each inhale, feel the belly fill lightly. With each exhale, feel it settle. Move the awareness into the hips, and let any tightness there soften into gravity's friendly weather. Travel now along the thighs. Let the muscles relax into the cushion or the floor. Notice the knees. Let any holding there unhook. Follow that relaxation through the calves, down into the ankles, and finally to the feet. Feel each toe release. If any area resists, lean into curiosity rather than force. Ask, as the host sometimes asks an apprentice when their stitch balks, "What would you prefer?" The answer will be a small shift, a fraction in posture, a softer elbow, a less tense jaw. Let the breath be the friend who makes that change gentle. There is a moment when the apprentice leaves and returns with a low wooden box. Inside, wrapped in soft paper, are a selection of stones and a small piece of charcoal for marking. The elder picks up a whetstone and shows the apprentice how to sharpen the little bone folder that smooths paper seams. This is not unrelated to inner sharpening. It is a domestic, pragmatic art of keeping tools ready so the work of attention is unobstructed. The apprentice listens and practices the motion with reverence. You may find your own attention sharpened by the rhythm of this demonstration. The scrape, the quiet breath, the watchful eye. Now, Hold the cup or keep your hands resting. When you are ready, bring the bowl to your lips again and take a mindfully measured sip. Small, attentive, noting the path heat takes from the rim to the tongue. Feel the flavor expand in your mouth. What is its temperature? What textures do you notice? The thinnest edge of bitterness at the back? A softened vegetal sweetness on the mid-palate? Let each nuance be a small piece of data that grounds you in sense. As you swallow, feel the warmth slide down the chest like a small, consolidating tide. We will use a different breathing pattern now, timed to an interval of whisking and listening. This is a moderate cycle. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. As you listen to the host whisk in the bowl, let each sweep of the chasen mark the count. The sound of the bamboo is a steady companion. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause for the hold, then let the long exhale follow for 6. Repeat this pattern with the movement and sound, following the whisk like a slow metronome. If you do not have a bowl, simply imagine the sound, and let your breath keep time with it. Midway through this section, the seamstress finishes the patchwork and lifts the repaired panel to the light. The tissue patch sits within the washi like a small, pale moon. The threads are evident yet gentle. She does not varnish it with lacquer or gild it in that moment. Instead, she chooses a contrasting thread, a soft umber, that reads as intention rather than concealment. We are not hiding the tear, she says. We are showing there has been a tension. Her hands fold the excess paper with respect. You may notice that seeing repair makes it easier to tolerate small imperfections in yourself. This is not a guarantee of feeling whole, but a model. Some seams mend with subtle stitches, others with more noticeable marks, and both are serviceable. Allow the long body scan to deepen into progressive relaxation. Begin at the scalp and imagine a warm thread of light descending through your body. As it moves through the skull and forehead, sense a loosening. As it passes the eyes, feel a release. Let that warmth move across the jaw and melt the hold there. With the next inhale, gather a gently contracted awareness in the shoulders, like a small bundle, and as you exhale, let them drop entirely. Inhale once more, and tighten the fists slightly, noticing any tension. Exhale, and let the fingers unfurl. Move attention to the biceps and forearms. Tense for a moment on the inhale, release on the exhale. Continue this gentle contract and release down the legs, through the thighs, calves, and feet. This small practice of tightening briefly and then relaxing allows the nervous system to register a contrast, and the release tends to register as relief. There is a low conversation by the brazier. The elder speaks of a winter many years ago when a storm took a section of the eaves. The host listens and asks practical questions about how the leak was found, how the wood was dried, what the neighbors did to help. The story is not dramatic. It is an inventory of small acts: ladders borrowed, tea sent to the workmen, a shared pot of rice. The apprentice listens quietly and then offers a detail about the pattern of moss on the replaced shingles. Stories like this are not heroic. They are ordinary, the kind of continuity that keeps a community stitched together. Notice how listening to such non-heroic stories can make your own difficulties feel proportionate rather than overwhelming. We will come back to drinking in a moment. For now, consider an image. A cup washed and placed on the tray become a small island. Each movement you make around it is deliberate. You pour water in a slow arc so as not to disturb the bowl's inner peace. The clink when the spoon returns to the caddy marks a punctuation. These micro-rituals build a container of attention that you may borrow outside this room. A second haiku is read softly by the apprentice. She keeps her voice low like a footfall. Ember holds the night. Paper windows keep their hush. Tea cools, the room listens. Let that line rest. Words have weight. Sometimes their rhythm is a hand on the shoulder. Return to the bowl if you have one and bring it to your lips again, or simply cup your hands and imagine the warmth. Take your time. Notice the steam's pattern one more time, how it rises, meets the lantern light, and thins against the paper screen. Each in-breath draws the steam closer. Each out-breath lets it scatter. The elder brings forward a small wooden mallet and a collection of tiny tacks and patches, tools used to mend lattice frames. He offers to demonstrate how to replace a splintered slat without damaging the surrounding frame. The apprentice watches, and you may watch with them. The motion is gentle. A measured tap, a precise alignment, a small nail driven with restraint. The craft is meticulous, and its pace is slow. There is a lesson here. Repair is rarely a rush to fix. It is an economy of patient gestures. We have now reached a part of the night where the tea's last sips become a small ceremony of farewell. Bring the bowl to your lips one final time, and drink with the utmost attention, as if sampling an essential fact about this room. Notice the temperature, the way the flavor dissolves, the way the quiet that follows is not empty but full of small textures. The echo of the whisk, the rustle of paper, the subtle click of the brazier's frame adjusting as the embers settle. When the bowl is emptied, the host wipes it with a linen cloth, folding the cloth into neat squares. The motion is slow, mindful, a fold, a press, a tuck. She places the cloth aside, ready for the next day. These domestic tidies are part of the ritual's moral. Tending is continuous. Nothing is wasted. Everything is prepared to accept attention again. We will now take an extended guided grounding sequence tied to the sandglass's run. Visualize the sand as a steady river, small, patient, untroubled by your thoughts. As it begins to fall again, inhale gently for 4 counts. Hold for 4, exhale for 6, the cycle you know and have practiced. Use this pattern as you perform a simplified, body-centered gratitude. Name in your mind, without judgment, 3 small things that supported you this season. Perhaps a neighbor's meal, a borrowed umbrella, a particular quiet morning. Let each named item rest in the chest as you inhale and be released into appreciation on the exhale. Do not elaborate. Keep the items simple. The movement is not about boasting, it is about recognition. An apprentice clears a small space near the brazier and lays out a wooden box of tools to be returned to their places. The host calls out softly. One by one, we set things down. This is a cue for you too. In a moment, we will symbolically set down a worry. For now, keep your attention on the breath and the sand. When the sand is nearly at its midpoint, imagine taking that specific worry, the frayed thought, the recurring worry you noticed earlier, and place it with gentle hands on an imagined tray. Look at it without condemnation. Note its size. Does it look as large as it felt in the dark? Perhaps not. You are practicing with perspective. Turn the imagined tray with the worry toward the lantern light. Allow the warmth to reveal the detail and the edges. Then, with an out-breath that follows the sand to its base, let the worry become smaller, made up of threads you can pick at later if you choose. This is not dismissal. It is an exercise in holding a thing lightly instead of gripping it. A small bell rings in the distance. perhaps a dinner bell from a neighboring cabin, and the room shifts slightly. The host smiles and bends to tend the brazier one last time. She covers the kettle to keep the last warmth, but the ember bed is eased back, coals arranged in a gentle nest for cooling. The apprentice folds the paper screens with careful hands, sliding the repaired panel into its lattice until it sits true. Each movement is an act of closure without finality. The sanctuary will be there in the morning and in the week following, ready to hold another set of hands. Before we conclude, the seamstress offers a story about a pot she once found with a crack down its side. She tells of buying a small jar at a stall, and then watching the jar slip one wet afternoon. Rather than hiding the break, she remembered a friend's lesson. Let the scar be visible and make the jar's history part of its beauty. She did not lacquer it with gold in that moment. Instead, she mended it with a fine thread, sewing a small patch from the inside. There is tenderness in her memory. She says, "To see the crack is to know we all have been through weather." The tone is gentle and not prescriptive. You may consider the story as another tool. The knowledge that blemish does not always mean ruin. Now we will perform a final, slower breathing sequence. Inhale for 6. Pause lightly, then exhale for 8. This is the longest release of the night and will help settle the nervous system for departure. As you inhale 6, imagine drawing a soft thread of lantern light down through the center of your body. Hold for a moment where the breath feels full. Allow the stillness to be a small island. Exhale 8, and picture the thread unspooling into the room, connecting you to the hearth, to the paper screens, to the hands that have moved here tonight. Repeat this pattern 3 times, letting each exhale be longer than the last, the body becoming a little more settled after each cycle. The host now invites you to perform a symbolic closing. If you have a sand glass, turn it 3 times. If not, imagine turning it. Each turn is a small benediction, the first for the quiet you made together, the second for the repair you witnessed and perhaps began within yourself, the third for steadiness to carry outward. As the sand begins to fall with each turn, place an intention, not a demand, but a soft wish, for how you will take the evening's calm with you. This intention might be practical. I will take 3 mindful breaths before answering messages. Or it might be gentle. I will notice one small kindness tomorrow. Keep it modest. Commitments that are gentle are more likely to be kept. There is an exchange at the threshold. The neighbor bows her head and offers a small wrapped portion of rice cakes, a token of shared labor. The apprentice accepts with both hands. The handing and receiving feel like a ritual unto themselves, an embodied economy of giving. These small gifts are not transactional in the way of market deals. They are ways of saying, without words, I notice you. If you like, take a moment to think of one small thing you could do for someone this week that would be like that rice cake. A practical kindness that will not exhaust you to give. A final haiku is read, this time by the host, as she arranges the whisk back into its box. Lantern hums soft gold. Hands fold the evening inward. The mountain listens. Let the phrase rest in the chamber of your mind. Words like these can become an ember to return to later. If you lie awake in the coming nights, you might breathe through this image. The lantern, the folded hands, the mountain that listens. The host moves with a calm economy, returning tools to their places. The chasen is rinsed and set to drain. The chawan is stacked carefully. The linen cloth is folded, and set aside for washing. The brazier, which has been a patient center, is covered and eased to cool. Each movement is deliberate and practical. Notice how the tidy gestures make space in the room, and perhaps a little space in you. Before we finish completely, I will offer a short appendix of practical suggestions, a quiet, spoken FAQ, read in the room's tone. These are optional for your own use when adapting the ritual to your home. Think of this as modest guidance, not sacred instruction. If you wish to recreate this at home, choose a small corner where you will not be easily interrupted. A cushion and a low tray will suffice. You do not need specialized utensils. A simple cup or bowl will do the work. Select a tea that you enjoy. If you use matcha, keep the scoop light. If you use leaf tea, a small measured pinch or 1 tea bag is fine. The precise measure is less important than the intention. Use a small sand glass, a kitchen timer shaped like rice, or simply watch the slow motion of a candle's flame to pace breath. The aim is to have a gentle, visible cue to carry your attention. For mending, simple tools will work. A needle, thread, a small patch, or even fabric glue for practical fixes. Remember, the act of repair is as much about attention as about technique. If you have a whisk, chasten, treat it kindly. Rinse it after use. Let it dry upright. If you do not have one, a small spoon can stir with mindful attention. Keep the rituals short at first. 10 minutes 3 times a week is better borne than a long session you cannot keep. A safety note on breath. Keep your breathing comfortable. None of the patterns here require force or breath retention beyond what feels safe. If you feel lightheaded, slow to a normal pace and rest. If anxiety is severe or persistent, consider seeking support from a trained professional. This ritual is a companion practice and not a substitute for clinical care. We return to the warmth of the lantern for the last time. The host lifts the brazier cover and breathes in the faint scent of earlier cedar. She speaks to the apprentices in a low voice about beginning again tomorrow. The tone is one of steady expectation, not dread. The apprentice answers with a small, certain phrase. We will keep the tools ready. There is a simple confidence in that sentence. You might borrow it. Keep the tools of your calm nearby. A small cushion, a cup, a folded cloth, these are not just implements. They are invitations. Now, take 3 final breaths with me, each longer and softer than before. Inhale 6. Hold lightly. Exhale 8. Feel the release deepen as you progress. Inhale again, a little fuller. Exhale, and imagine the breath smoothing the line of your day ahead. On the last exhale, let your shoulders fall as if a small burden has been set down. Let the jaw soften. Let the eyes, if they were closed, open slowly and without hurry. See the room with the same gentleness with which you have been seen. If you turned the sand glass, watch it finish its 3rd fall. If you imagined it, rest in the image of the last grain joining the base. Not an end, but a marker of what has been attended. The sanctuary remains open to you, as a place in your imagination, as a set of gestures you can call upon when thoughts begin to fray, a gentle invitation before we part. If this evening gave you even a small steadiness, and you would like more guided rituals and meditations like this, consider subscribing. A quiet like or subscription helps us share more evenings of slow attention. We do not ask for much, just that you come back when you need to practice again. The lantern's glow becomes a last, slow pool at the edge of the screen. The host picks up the folded cloth and slips it into a small drawer. the seamstress smoothing the repaired panel one final time before it rests. The apprentice turns to leave, pausing in the doorway to offer you a soft nod that says, without words, go gently. Carry the calm outward in small acts. 3 mindful breaths before a difficult call. A moment to notice the warmth of your cup in the morning. A tiny repair done as a demonstration of kindness rather than proof of perfection. These are the stitches that hold ordinary days together. May this ritual, quiet, respectful, and Japanese-inspired in its aesthetic, be a tool you keep by the hearth of your life. Use it without worry about getting it right. The rightness of ritual is the attention you bring, not the precision of your movements. Let the sand be your honest teacher. It does not hurry, it does not scold, it simply shows time passing and invites you to move with it. The lantern dims to a faithful glow. The rain thins and becomes a mist on the mountain. The brazier cools into a warm memory of heat. You rise when you are ready, with a steadier spine and hands that remember the shape of shelter. Go slowly. The mountain listens. If this hour brought you a small steadiness, join us again. Subscribe for more guided rituals and meditations. Until the next lantern, take one last mindful breath and let it settle you for the night.